Hi, everyone. This is Tubbo Yet, and wanted to introduce our new show called Life Out Loud Podcast. I'm here today with my daughter Isabella. Just wanted to have our first episode, introduce everybody to what we're trying to do in regards to our show. Our topics, we're going to talk about life experiences, travel, some of the fun things that we've done, some of the funny moments that we've had throughout our life so far. We'll talk about current topics. And we're just going to make the show. It's going to be a fun show. We're going to interact with our community. So we basically, just want to let Isabella introduce herself, and she can elaborate on what we're trying to do here with our new show.
So hey guys, I'm Isabella, and we're just going to be talking about so many of our fun times that we've had and so many great laughs, and we're going to be laughing a lot on the show. We have many stories that are very funny. So...
Yep, we definitely will. A lot of people don't know that we do have a great relationship. Man, it's fun. It's fun to be around her constantly, and just having a great time and trying to live life the best way we can. So basically, we want to start out and talk about besides the show, just talk about certain things that the one question I had for Isabella was going to be, what was one of her basic best childhood memories growing up so far, being the young age of 20. The birthday's coming up in a couple months, so
21.
Yeah, the big 2-0, the big 2-1, 2-1, that's right. So just want to just talk about and see, my question to you would be, what's one of your best childhood memories so far, growing up in this era, because my era was way different than you guys. You want to tell us a little story?
Well, I have many stories. I think the most memorable story, traveling-wise, we went to Disney for the first time.
Man, yeah.
Well, some of us like amusement parks, some of us don't like amusement parks. That would be him.
Yes.
It was how old was I? Probably, 4 or 5?
About 5.
5.
I think about 5.
We went for Easter.
Yes.
That was my first time on the plane, so I was so excited to go down. It was very fun. But you have to remember, I'm the only child, so I don't have anyone to ride the rides with. There's no one there it's just me. So I remember the one ride, the Dr. Seuss ride.
Yes. I remember that instinctively, yes.
That was fun. I made him ride it It was over again.
20 times he was on the same ride over and over again, so.
That was fun. What else did we have to do in Disney?
Oh, of course,
we did everything.
Yeah, we did everything, but of course, I'm afraid of heights. So we're glad we was able to do some of the smaller roller coasters. Kid rides, the bigger roller coasters, I'm not too fond of. So,
yeah.
But no, we had a great time. Of course, we had we had on the little mini demon drop, and the kids were screaming, and I believe one kid even got sick. It was just. It was a great time.
That was fun.
Yeah. So what other memories you may have?
Well, we talked about, I love Christmas traditions a lot. We have a lot of Christmas traditions.
Yes.
We love Christmas in the household here.
Yes.
we love Christmas. So we always go down. We always get the tree, the real tree from out. We go cut it down. That's always fun.
Well, let's back up. The very first Christmas tree that we had. We have high ceilings, so
yes,
we were thinking somewhere in the 10 to 12 foot range, and we came home with a pine tree of about 18 feet. We had the.
Well, you picked it out and you surprised us.
Well, no, remember the guy said, "Hey, you want a big tree?" And then he got us a big tree. They pulled it on a trailer, on a semi trailer. So those are good times, and Christmas is big and real big with us in our family.
Yeah. We have Christmas tree decorating. We have thousands of cookies. We do gingerbread house.
Yes. Well, and a lot of people don't know, I listen to Christmas music
October 1st.
Well, October 1st, but pretty much all year long. I really do.
Christmas music.
Yeah, I do. I love Christmas music. It keeps you in a good spirit. So
yeah.
So those are traditions that we've had, and I know people see those when we post it on social media. Christmas is really a big part of our lives, and I know this past year, mommy not being there, Edie, my wife, and not being there was tough for us. But we got through it, and she always wanted us to continue those traditions on, and we was able to have those conversations with her, and we're living up, and hopefully we're keeping her happy, and she's looking down upon us. And part of the show that we started is going to be, part of Mommy.
Yeah.
Just talking about, we started the travel company, Powers of Partnerships. That whole thing's going to be, money's going to be donated back to UPMC's breast cancer center, and just keeping those traditions on. And Power Partnerships is one of our sponsorships. It's going to be part of a sponsorship of the show. But we're going to continue that along with Alani. We're going to start out with Alani for our first show, and they're a partner of ours, and hope you guys go out and buy their products, because they're going to support us in our show.
I know.
So those traditions that we've had is based off of our family and how we kind of raised you, and sitting down for those dinners, every time we had an opportunity at 5:00 and putting our phones away.
Yeah,
we always did that. So yeah, but the Christmas stuff is a fun time. It definitely lifts us up and gets us through the hard times, especially this past Christmas season. But yeah, we'll continue those traditions on, and we'll pass it on to Isabella as she grows up. So. Anything else? I mean, what about your first travel that you've had? When you first traveled besides Disney, like getting on the plane, some of the other trips, family vacations we went on?
Well, we traveled a lot. We're always somewhere. So, what was it, Mexico?
Yeah, we went to Mexico. We went to Punta Mia, Mexico.
Yes.
That was a big trip. Well, we went first. Let's back up, because first we took a trip to Sarasota.
Okay, we came back up to Sarasota.
Yeah.
That was fun. We did we decided to road trip down.
Yes, we did. Instead of flying, we took a family road trip, and that was nice to.
That was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
Along with that, that's where we got the Bojangles.
Yes, the first time we tasted Bojangles as we traveled south. Some of the funny stories, because around that time, Mommy was just diagnosed.
Yes,
she was going through her chemo treatments and stuff like that, and we decided to get our family together. Instead of flying, we wanted to spend some time in the car, but it was funny because she slept.
She slept most of the time.
She slept most of the time, and then she would pop up and join into the conversation. It was
fun. It was funny.
And it was like, wait a second, you was just sleeping, but she would be right in with the conversation, and we'd laugh. And one of the funniest things was when I was driving.
We have what, like 3-4 hours left?
Yeah, we had about that time left.
Yeah.
And then I had drove us down, I think, into Georgia. And right in Virginia, and then Mommy decided to say, I'll drive us into Georgia.
Yeah.
Because that's when we stopped and got the Bojangles. And she's like, no, I'm good. I can continue to drive. And we was like, you sure? And I was like, no, I'll drive us in. I'll drive us into Florida.
Yeah.
And literally, guys, listen, we pull out. I didn't even get through the light.
Like to get back onto the highway.
And she was back there snoring. It was we were like, oh my God, she would have killed us. It was the funniest thing, because she was knocked out all the way until we got to Sarasota. And she says, hey guys, I wasn't sleeping. We're like, what?
You're passed out.
You're passed out. So yeah, those are memories that we will always have. And
Sarasota's beautiful though, like the beaches and everything.
Yes. And I think I had an FJ because I was still in the oil field, and I just started in the oil field, and the guy didn't recognize. He said, what kind of car is this? He thought it was like a foreign car, which was funny to us. So
the hotel was beautiful.
The hotel was beautiful, yeah.
Well, they had that goofy, the restaurant circle that, they had like the macaroons.
Yes. I forget the name of that little small town.
St. Armand Circle.
St. Armand Circle, that's it. Yeah.
So it's funny.
But yeah, that was a good time. You got sick off those macaroons. Yeah, you can't. So she definitely don't want to eat those anymore. Yeah. But beautiful place.
I had that weak stomach when I was little. I was.
You wasn't picky, but you did eat certain things you ate that you sick. Yeah. I think a lot of the stuff that especially with the pyrade with the dye in it, the ribbon.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't good. Yeah. No, but we ate at the Jack. What is it called again?
Jack Dusty.
Jack Dusty.
Well, at the hotel, the Ritz-Carlton.
Yes, the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Jack Dusty was on point.
Yeah,
the best food, best breakfast, and then of course Edie, my wife, yeah, she's like, hey, let's try something different because we ate there
We ate there every night. We were there for like what, a week?
a week.
Yeah, but it was so good you wanted to keep going back. So it was like, why change?
Why change? That's right. And then she goes, we was like, okay, you pick the place. And we're all getting ready. And then she's like, hey guys, we're going to the Salty Dog.
Oh.
We was like, what's that? Well, we don't want hot dogs in Sarasota. So yeah, of all places.
But that's when we left the resort compound and I got sick at the outside restaurant.
Yes. Instead of taking it to the Jack Dusties. Yeah. But no, that was a great family trip. What a wonderful time and wonderful memories. So then we took other trips, but one of the main bigger trips we took was to Punta Mia.
Punta Mia in
Mexico.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was my, that was the first time out for me outside the country.
Outside the country, yeah. So we had to rush to get, well, we didn't rush, but we got our passports and getting that done. And
that was...
But the Punta Mia trip, so the story behind that is me and Edie, we had been there 20 years ago. We literally was one of the first couples there. The first families that went to this resort. We were members at Muirfield Golf Club in Columbus, in Dublin, Ohio. And I saw the magazine inside the locker room, and I was like, oh, this is a Jack Nicklaus golf course. What is this? And I opened the magazine, and it said it was just opening. It just had opened maybe 2 weeks before, after reading the articles and stuff. And then I booked the trip, and literally we told you.
That's what you said. Yeah.
We had the whole hotel to ourselves. Funny story that they still had the coyotes and stuff was still roaming on the property. And they had to ride us around on golf courses, and I played the beautiful golf club course that they had there. We had a beachfront room, which the
beachfront. That's
the
key. That's the key in the story.
That's the key in this story. Remember the beachfront. So we stayed there for almost 2 weeks. So we enjoyed the oceanfront views and the dinners, and I actually ended up getting sick because they had this special dinner. It was a chef seafood special dinner. So basically, we met that morning on the beach, and you would tell the chef and his staff what you wanted for dinner that night.
Yeah.
And of course, Mommy got the red snappers. That was like one of her favorite dishes.
Like that.
She loved that red snapper fish. So I said, oh my God, do you have lobsters? And he said, we got the whole sea. We got lobsters everywhere. So I said, yeah, I want like a 4 to 5 pound lobster, a big lobster tonight. So they asked me how I wanted it prepared, and I told them, I said, I want it on the grill, and with the butter and the flavors and all that. So get to the point. So dinner time comes, we get escorted in, and there was a few other people who had came to the restaurant by that time, came to the resort by that time. So we sit down next to this couple. I remember they were from New York, and we were just talking about what we ordered from the chef thing. And I said, oh man, I got the lobster. It's going to be grilled, and my wife got the snapper and all that. So they bring the lobster out, and it was huge, a huge lobster. And the guy's like, man, are you going to eat all that? I said, oh yeah, it looks delicious. Well, they set it on my plate. They set the plate on my table, and I thought it moved. And I said, oh my God, I said, Edie, it moved. She said, don't you embarrass me. I said, and the guy next to us said, hey man, that lobster just moved. And I said, I'm telling you, it moved. And the ladies were like, you guys are always trying to start something. Don't take that back. And I'm like, I'm not taking it back. It just moved.
Moved, yeah.
Well, I should have known it moved because I looked up towards the kitchen, and the whole kitchen staff was looking at me, waiting to see if I was going to eat the lobster or something. And yes, I took a bite of it. I dipped it in butter, and it was ice cold. So what they did was they just put it on the grill live, and it wasn't all the way cooked. So what a terrible experience, because I had got food poisoning by a couple hours after that. Now we're in Mexico, so we're 45 miles west of Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what doctor am I going to see? So they sent me, the hotel staff, my wife notified them that I was sick. I wasn't feeling good. So they notified this doctor. and they told me he doesn't speak English that well. And I thought, oh my God, and I'm gonna end my life here in Mexico because I was really bad. I was really sick, really bad. So then, he came in and he wasn't speaking English very well, and he said, "Nay, take these." And I said, "What is it?" And we couldn't communicate what it was. But I thought, okay,
And he's the worst to get sick anywhere. But
yes,
she's the
yes,
worst.
yes.
That was just.
You're right. I'm terrible. I get sick. I'm like on my deathbed or something.
Yeah.
But so I ended up taking this medication, and I said, okay, this is it. If something happens, just get me back home to the United States. And within 30 minutes, I was back on my feet and. Didn't know what I'd taken, but the doctor was smiling. Like, yeah, you're good, you're good. So I thought, okay. So he left me a couple to take throughout the day, and then I was back to normal and back to eating and enjoying the vacation. Yeah. They did give us a discount off the rooms for 3 days because I wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
So, but shout out to the Punta Mia. That's
Four Seasons.
That's a Four Seasons resort.
Yeah.
Yes, a beautiful place.
Yeah.
So
Didn't we?
all the way. So now we take Isabella. To there. We wanted to book another vacation, so we booked a vacation there, and we went with Dumrick and his family.
Yeah, and we brought Mimi.
And we bought
all these people were. This is important.
Yes.
Because
so go ahead, you can tell that
well,
part.
First, whenever we traveled to Mexico, everyone knows you have to go through customs. This is when it all started. The nonsense. This is when it started.
Yes.
Because I overpacked. My suitcase was overweight. Mommy was already mad at me because it was extra heavy. You had to come out on the other side of the customs thing.
Yeah.
So it comes out. But we're all in line like that. He was like, "Oh, let's just all wait. We're gonna go together." And Mom was like, "No, I'm going. You guys can figure it out." Then she was knocking the suitcase over.
Yeah,
and she went through customs. She's like, "I'll meet you guys on the other side."
Well, they were trying to serve us. They were trying to give us drinks, and everybody's trying to get drinks and get their bag, which they could have did that.
Tequila. We're like, no, we're trying to get our bag and go through customs.
Yeah.
So that was funny part going to the hotel.
Yes.
So we get in the car.
Well, you gotta tell the back. You gotta let's back up, tell the backstory. When you travel with Edie, it is something to experience within itself.
Yes.
Because by the time we're landing, she wants to come back.
Yes.
She wants.
How far are we going again? How long are we going for?
Yeah.
I'm like, we said we're going for a week. It's vacation. She's like, 3 days is enough. And we're like, no.
Yeah. She doesn't. I mean, she enjoys it. I think when we get there, but getting there with her can be a very, very funny experience. So so then go ahead. I'm sorry, you can finish what we were about the story.
No, so we get in the car and then they take us to because that first day you guys booked the beachfront because you guys were going to do the same room that you guys had.
Yes. Yeah. Right. That's right. So we were going to get the same room that we had 20 years ago.
Yes, but now it was only them two, and then now they brought me, and then my grandma, which we call her Mimi. Mimi was coming with us. So now there's 2 extra people. Yeah,
that's going to stay in a room with us.
Yeah.
But I told Mommy, I told Edie, I said, Edie, listen, I looked at the resort. It's changed. It's been 20 years.
Yeah, they had villas, they had other rooms, they had different things to accommodate more people.
And they had beachfront houses. They had these huge homes there. And then they built up. They had an ice cream station there on the beach with the fudgesicles and all that stuff. And then more people were there. They built it out a little bit more on the beach. And I said, remember, Edith, it was just me and you. Now it's going to be 2 other people. I think we need to get a house. Let's get one of the houses up in the hills there.
Yeah, they had the hill and you had your own pool, hot tub, looked into the ocean. Very pretty.
Yeah, we ended up having 2 pools. Remember?
Yeah, we did the 2 pools.
We had 2 pools. They had the hot tub. They had the different, the big houses, and then you had maid service. You had the concierge service. You had.
Because Mom, she's very minimal. She's like, just what we need is perfect.
Yeah. That's one big thing that you guys you can learn along the show is that my wife is being an accountant, and she was like very, very conservative. Where it's
nothing more, nothing less. Just what you need is perfect.
Yeah,
and we're over here like, oh no, we need 5 bedroom, we need 3 pools. Give us everything.
Yeah. So that's us. That's us. But the minimum is what for her. And I said, well, listen, Ed. I said I did talk to the hotel, and when I called the lady. I was like, oh my God, Mr. Yates!
Yeah.
You haven't been back here in 20 years, and the property has changed. So they did. They remember us being there, probably from our name and reservation that we had. And I asked about the room, and she says, oh yeah, you can. there'll be a bed and we can put you 2 cots. I said, absolutely not.
Yeah. No.
So, but again, I'm on speakerphone, so Mom would say, "Oh, 2 cots would be fine."
And I was like, well, first of all, you and Daddy are going to sleep in the bed, and I'm not sleeping on the cot.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I get the bed, then everyone needs their own bed if we're going on this nice vacation. No one's sleeping on a cot, full-away bed. No.
Yes.
We need to have multiple beds for everyone.
Yeah, she was all for it. She was all for the cot.
She's like, no, it'll be fine. She's like, we're not even in the room anyways. I was like, we gotta be comfortable.
Yeah.
We're going to sleep.
Yeah, so we fought for months.
That was yeah.
We fought for months, and finally, I just.
Cause he would like pull up the we ended up getting, what was it, five bedroom?
Yeah, it's like 5 bedrooms.
5 bedroom. He would just leave it up on his computer. He would just leave it sit there.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, look how nice this is. This is what we need to have.
Yeah.
But then she finally was like, okay, maybe we'll go with the
house.
It was last minute. It was last minute change.
But it turned out wonderful. You know, with our families be there, so we had plenty of room. Everybody had their own. It was like a house with houses within a house. So everybody had their own quarters, and the main lobby was there. We had a family dinner. A service booked for a night of a family. We was able to cook out. We went on a yacht and spent the day out with the family. And Mimi, which is Edie's mother-in-law, was had a couple funny stories with her too, because we would be on the beach and she's like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna go over to the lazy river."
Because the lazy river was like, you could just float, and they were just passing out drinks as long as you go around the lazy river. They had like the slushies,
stuff with alcohol, and then she would come back at like 3, 4 in the afternoon. Her lips was like either bright blue or red. We was like, "Mimi, what you been doing?" She's like, "I was just floating." And we was like, "Was you drinking?" She's like, "No," but you could tell.
Yeah.
But then the guy, one of the workers, like, "Hey, your mother-in-law is down in those Slurpees over there. Make sure you check on her because she keeps floating by every time she gets getting the drink." So, but yeah, those are funny stories, man.
But I think we have to tell. Overall, it was a great family vacation, but this is the best part. So staying in the house, they give you 2 golf carts.
Yes.
Now, see, I know we're very much extra, but I like to explore. I love to go. We said we're going to be in Mexico. We got to be authentic. Let's go to Mexican. Let's go tour the city. But the Ritz-Carlton has you on lockdown. They're very much so. This is the resort compound. This is where you stay. There's 400 restaurants, ice cream, gelato, churros. Like, you just got to stay at the compound and you're set.
Yeah, you got to set.
That's him. He can stay at the pool.
That's
He's
me.
perfectly set.
I'm not leaving.
So we were like, we went down to the front desk and I was like, hey, is there shopping around? We can go explore, whatever. And the lady goes, oh, yes, shopping plaza. She's like, you just got to cross one little street once you get out of the resort. And there's a bunch of stores. It's real shopping on the other side. Yeah. And there also happens to be a little beach on the other side once you got outside the compound. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, perfect. I said, oh, could we just take the golf carts or could you guys take us in the car? And she was like, oh, no, you guys can just take the golf carts. Like, there's a bunch of parking on the streets. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, I'm not thinking, oh, we're in a random city in Mexico. But I was like, oh, other people must drive their golf carts down into the town.
Yeah, we're in a different country. We're in a totally different country. That's the difference between a father and a daughter. The mindset. We're in a totally different country, and she wants to drive the golf carts on their roads.
But she said we could take the golf carts. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So we're driving out to the compound. It was a good, probably 5-minute drive.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad. And it was funny because we had 2 golf carts. It was like you were driving the first one, and I was riding on the second one. But the people working the gate, they were waving at us where are you guys?
The guy was like, where are you guys going? With these golf carts? He was like, there's a highway. They were looking at us like we were crazy. And I kept telling everybody, guys, we are in a different country. And then finally we pull out.
We pull out, yes. And then obviously we're staying at the Ritz-Carlton Resort. So then once you leave, you're culture shocked. It's like, oh my God, where are we going? Yeah. I mean, it's Mexico. They were selling the fruits. They had everything else going on the highway. And it was everyone came to a crossroads and just stopped as we're crossing.
We were crossing the road. Everybody stopped for us. And then we get into town. We get to town and then we park. Now we all look at each other and says, "Hey, do we have our passports?" I'm like, "Oh no, we gonna get arrested!" We gotta have our. We had no ID, no nothing. We just had cash because they was pesos and all kind of stuff.
But they had cute little stores.
They did. But you always had that one person, acting a fool in town, and we came across him, and for me it was
short lived.
It was time to go back to the resort. It was time to go back to the resort. He was trying to cause havoc.
Yeah.
But
that was it was funny because we're like, of course, we're the only people who are going to drive golf carts in
we're the only people that had golf. And people in the town was like, wait, what are you guys doing? Like they was like, you guys, they was looking at us. So those are memories that we would have, and again, just having a great time on vacation and enjoying it. So that was definitely funny.
It was fun.
Funny, yeah. And again, with Edie, it was like, I'm never doing this again. I can't believe you guys got me out here in Mexico, these golf carts. But so those are times we will always remember. Anything else from there with and trip wise? I mean, I know we
could tell a story about trips for days.
Yeah, we could.
We a lot of trips.
A lot of trips.
I was thinking this is not put to be in Mexico, but we went to Nemacolin.
Yes.
That was we went was that before Christmas we went?
It was right before Christmas because we was on our way to Canada. We was on the way to Canada, and it was just we wasn't dressed for the occasion. The Celsius Fahrenheit thing. I said
because we looked at it on the weather app and we're like, oh, it's going to be warm. It said 48, he was like, oh, well, we want to go to Canada because we wanted the cold. We wanted to see the snow.
We wanted to going skiing and ice skating.
And we're like, oh, okay. Then we're looking at it. It's like 48, and it was like going to be 45. It was the 50s, and we were like, what the heck's going on?
So we was like, man, hopefully we can do, but we brought just regular clothes.
Yeah, we had jeans, sweatshirts. We didn't bring no winter jackets. We didn't bring nothing.
Yeah, and we pull up, and the guy's like, "You guys going to Toronto, Canada?" We was like, "Yeah." He's like, "It's like the weather's bad up there."
He was like, it's like in the negatives. He was like, it's freezing, and we were like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so we realized that we couldn't go, so we end up turning around, going back home. Isabella was screaming and crying because she wanted to go there, but she wanted to go somewhere. So of course, Edie, mommy looked up she Googled it and said, hey, Nemacolin has an opening. They have a hotel room, and we had been in Nemacolin before. Me and Edie had been over there several times. And they have a ski resort. They have ice skating. They have everything. So we ended up switching and going over to Nemacolin in Pennsylvania and had a great time.
Yeah, I was going to mention the funny story for there with Mommy.
Yeah.
Where she was sleeping.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, well, I didn't. So we were. Well, obviously we had a great time, whatever. But it was what was it? The second night we were there, probably.
Yeah, I think it was the second night. Yeah.
So. Whatever. Obviously, we're all in the same hotel room because it's just us three. And he likes to wake up early. And he was working or he just likes to look on his computer. I didn't realize that he was up because I didn't know what time of the night it was. But Mommy was snoring or she was sleeping real heavy.
Yeah. Well, we'll back up. Let's back up for a second because you two are like night owls because I was trying to go to sleep and then you got the milk bath or something. Remember that? I was like, what's going on?
Well, they could order it from the spa. They said it was like rejuvenation bath.
Yeah, but it's like 11 at night, and I was dozing off, and then I wake up, and she had milk in the room. I was like, what are you doing with the milk? And she was dumping it in the bathtub, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And they said, just go back to sleep. We're doing milk baths. I said, I guess, okay. So that was
funny. I remember you were sleeping because we were trying to be quiet, and then you popped up.
I popped up because I've heard the water. It was, I thought it was water, but she was dumping milk in the bathtub. So, yeah, that was one funny thing. I was like, the hell are you guys doing milk baths for? Never heard of that one. So no, then go ahead about Mommy's.
Yeah. So, I was sleeping. We're all sleeping. And Mommy it was bad. This was like the worst that she's ever stored ever.
Yeah.
It was deep, very deep store, like where you couldn't even shut your eyes. It was like that.
Yeah, because that's why I woke up.
Yeah. And he was sitting at the little desk in the room, and it's like, Mommy was on this bed, and I was on this bed. But like, I didn't realize that he was in the corner of the room because I was just so focused on her sleeping. Yeah. But you saw my face. But
I thought I was going to have to. You have to break you two up from assassination because Isabella, I was sitting at the desk but she didn't see me, so I looked over at her, and she raised her head up on that pillow, and she gave her the death stare, and I went, "Hey!" She was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "What was you going to do to mommy?" She was like, "She's so loud." I said, "I thought you was going to jump on her." So yeah, that was a funny thing. So then,
But the thing was, then the next morning we wake up, we're tired because we didn't sleep well. And
Yes.
she was like, "Oh, guys, I barely slept last night." I said, "What?" I said, "You didn't just barely sleep." I said, "You were sleeping heavy."
she was like, "No, I wasn't." She was like, "Oh my God, I barely slept. Are you guys tired?" We were like, "Yes, we're tired." Yeah, but that was funny. And her waking up and saying, but she did that all the time.
Yeah,
She would have a treatment or something, and then she would be zonked out, and then wake up and say, "Man, I didn't sleep that well." We were like, "Are you serious right now?" Because it made her really go into a deep sleep. But which was kind of crazy because she always said, "I never slept that well," and we would laugh. So those things that people in our community will learn about us over time, just the stories that we have, and the life that we experience, and we're blessed. We're happy. We're humbled about what we do and all the places that we've gone to. So what other kind of besides with travel, or if it's travel or whatever stories that you had that you have memories of.
Oh, we just did a lot of funny and crazy stuff.
Yeah.
We had a lot of things like this.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, what questions you might have for me then? From my perspective, growing up is going to be way different.
I know. I grew up calm, cool, collected.
Yeah.
Yes. He never says no, which I had a great childhood.
But just not. Yeah. Can't say no. Can't say no.
No. I mean, overall, we always were doing something fun. Whether it was like dance competition, we were always somewhere doing something with everything. But I know he tells me stories about his good old PVC.
Oh yeah.
Growing up.
Yes. So like I said, from a father-daughter's perspective, like my childhood was totally different because basically you always want your kids to have more than what you have, But her being the only child, I had 4 other brothers, it was all boys, so our life was totally different. And again, love my parents. They always did the best that they could. That's just. But the times were different. The parents were much tougher. But growing up, so we grew up, and there's memories of I can remember, and again, you guys laugh at my stories all the time.
Well, because they're funny.
Yeah, because I can remember all the way back to when I was younger at Grant School. Having Mrs. Weisberger walking. I mean, literally like being driven to school. No, you had to walk to school. So but those days, and then attending Garfield. And that era where I think I was like 2nd and 3rd grade, I was at Garfield, and one of the funniest stories for me was, I was ornery, like, and I was like I would say I was a class clown because I enjoy laughing. I always laugh, and most people probably don't even know that about me. How
you're quiet, but
I'm quiet and mellow, a little private, but but for the most part, I tell stories and want to laugh all the time, but. So I had Mrs. Lease was my 3rd grade teacher, and again, just growing up in those times, always being ornery, and I got a report card, which I didn't have good grades that first 9 weeks, and always wanted to be kind of the class clown a little bit, and which at that time, my dad was very strict on schoolwork. I mean, he was all about making sure that you had good grades and going to school and everything. And we got our report cards, and I saw my grades, and my brother had like all A's, and I had like a D, a C, a B. I said I can't take this home. So of course, back in the day, you guys would know this, but your parents had to sign the report card to say that they read it and seen it.
So they used to mail it to the house.
Yes, they used to mail it, or you guys can go online and see your grades and all that. Now that's what they had. So, of course, my dad's like, "Hey, everybody's running in, handing the report cards to him," and he's like, "Tubbo, where's your report card?" I said, "They didn't give me mine yet. It got delayed," and he was like, "Oh, okay," but I didn't know that Mrs. Lease actually called him and said, "Hey, his report cards is going to be a lot different from his twin brother because he's unsatisfactory. He does unsatisfactory work because I was always playing. And then I realized I turned the report card over and she wrote unsatisfactory. I said, oh, I can't show him this. So I go and sign his name to the report card. That was the biggest mistake. I think that was probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life. Forget anything else that has happened to me, because the next day I take the report card back, and the teacher, Miss Lee, said, "Hey, did your dad sign that report card?" I said, "Yeah, he signed it." Well, of course, I signed it. She called my dad, and yeah, it was over. And next I heard my dad screaming, "Tubbo, Tubbo!" He was in the school. And he had a belt. And back then, you could get beat anywhere. And people were like, yeah, he was acting up, beat him again, hit him again. You know what I mean? But your neighbors were allowed to hit you. Your parents' friends were allowed to beat you if you did something wrong. So, yeah, he gave me a whooping in front of the class. And I think, and then told me, he goes, you're going to repeat this grade. You're going to stay in this class again for another year. And he made me stay. He made me stay. Yeah, he was. I was like, no, I gotta move on. But yeah, he made me stay in that class, and from that point forward, yeah, I straightened up and took, school, a little bit more serious. But it was a wake up call. It was a wake up call. And that's one of the things that I can remember as a kid. And then moving on to PVC, we moved from downtown Steubenville up to the PVC, which is called Parkview Circle. Like again, 7 people, my mom, my dad, and then 5 boys. Times were different. There wasn't a lot of work going on. My dad worked in the mill. But yeah, so we were there, and PVC was, back in the day, you fought over everything. You fought other kids, but then you could be friends 2 minutes later. There was really no grudges. And then I always tell this story, but being at PVC, like just getting involved in organized sports. And like I said, Todd Kelly was one of the biggest influences of my life, because, he may not have realized that, but he was older than us. But he was definitely a good athlete and a great football player. So we learned from him and different things. And he taught us a lot of stuff, had us running around at night, making us get tired and start lifting weights and all that. But yeah, those are some of the things that I can recall that was great. But yeah, we fought as a family. We fought as brothers. My brother Hans, he was
can
like,
have his own series.
Hey, my brother Hans, we can have a huge series with him. He introduced us to like the ninja nunchucks and stars and all kind of different things that he was involved in, and he liked to hunt. Stuff that we didn't know about. So yeah, there's a lot of different things on the PVC stuff. So, but yeah, Parkview Circle was definitely an eye opener. Just the way of living, and we was talking about this offset yesterday. We were talking about this at home, where Isabella asked me, she's like, "Hey, when did you realize you didn't want to live that lifestyle, that being stuck, staying in the projects or being stuck in a certain lifestyle of living?" And I said, basically, when I realized I got to school and there was more to the world, I met people, who lived a whole different way. And even after graduating college, I told your mom was babysitting the head person at the hospital, Ohio State Hospital. She was babysitting her kids. And they lived in this beautiful big house. And we were like, man, how do you guys do all this? Like, how you guys make money to live like? And then the guy, her husband, explained to me about, different things, and because they don't teach a lot of stuff in school. About mortgages and about finances and stuff like that. So I kind of realized, like, okay, yeah, I don't want to live that life. I want to live better, because there's people out here that do. But just going back to my childhood, like I said, like going into Harding middle school when they first merged together, just understanding, it was. Things were going to change. They put the town together, and it became one, because back in the day it was Grant versus Harding, and then the kids didn't play together really until they got to the high school at Big Red. So by them doing that, it opened the eyes, because you was able to be in classes with the other kids from around the city. That was a big thing for us, because it was more competition. It made us better as athletes. And I'm talking about the sports side of it, because sports was a big part of my life.
Yeah.
Huge part of my life. So then the one biggest thing that really changed me, and again, a lot of people don't even know this story. Like, so I was in back in the day, it was the convenient mart stores in town, and this lady was in there, and she was like, "Oh my God, there he is, the running back!" And I had scored some touchdowns and all this, and my mom wasn't too happy about it. She was like, "He's just not an athlete. He's got to be a student, and he's got to, focus on his class because without grades, he's not going to go anywhere."
Yeah.
So literally, we cash out, we go to the car, and she's like, "I'm going to show you some of the big red greats." And I was like, "Yeah, Mom, I seen their names on the wall. Like, I seen their names in the locker room." She was like, "No, I'm going to show you where they're at right now. And these are some of the people, when I say their names, if you've seen their names on that wall, you'll see what they're doing." So back in the day, there was a 6th Street. It was called the Pub. It was a place where all the drunk, the winos hung out, and people who, just maybe had a hard life. And she drove me down that street. And I remember saying to myself, why are we down here? And then she pointed out the people, the running backs, the receivers, quarterbacks. I mean, just people who played at Big Red, and they were all out there. And that life that they was living is something that I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be, down there as an adult. But she said, "Hey, if you don't focus on school, you don't get the grades. This is where all the big red grades end up, because you won't get a job in the mill. Nobody's going to hire you." And the crazy thing about it is they were all waving, "Hey, Diane." They was calling my mom by her name. They knew her. And she was like, "Yeah, so if you don't do what you're supposed to do, that right there, that stayed with me to this day." It's like, wow, it was like what made her do that when I was, 7th grade, 8th grade. And that just like, oh man, I don't want to be the one who go through Big Red Sports and here in Steubenville, Ohio, and be great just in the hometown. I wanted to be something bigger than that and try to be a better person. So yeah, that was one of the things that really stuck with me on a positive note as a kid, that let's definitely be better than that. And again, people go down different paths and have different issues, but that was one of the main things that on a positive note that I've ever had, like interacted with my mom, that I really wanted to, I thanked her even years later, like, wow, that was something that really stuck with me as a kid. And so she came, and then her response was, "You remember that?" I said, "Like it was yesterday. I remember a lot of stuff." So yeah, those are some of the memories that I've had from a different standpoint. I don't want to keep rambling, but yeah. So that was definitely different, and that was more of a positive thing for me than it was something that was negative. So we took a negative situation that could occur, because if we're out here doing stuff and not focusing, not getting good grades, not going to school or something like that, that was the end result, where a lot of people ended up on 6th Street and not having a life, just being drunk or doing drugs or being on drugs. So but yep, those are different things. Now I know there's more stuff, and we could talk on another episode, but just want to give you a quick overview when you asked me about that question.
So thank you guys for tuning in for our first episode of Life Out Loud. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and make sure to keep following us and turn those post notifications on so you can know when we release episode 2.
That sounds great. We'll see you guys at episode 2.